All right. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Unprofessional Entrepreneur. I'm very excited to share this episode. Oh, drop my hair elastic. Because I know that you guys love to hear my behind the scenes, my processes, my step by step how I did something. The most recent one I shared was setting up my private podcast, launching my private podcast, and the numbers that came from that. This time we're going to go into a hiring discussion. I am going to talk to you all about how I hired my latest hire, which is a Pinterest manager, what went into my thoughts beforehand, what I looked for to set up calls with Pinterest managers, and how I made my decision in the end. Honestly, I typed up some notes to go over, and I feel like by the end you're gonna be like, no fucking duh. But also it it was like a whole month-long process for me to make this decision to find the person. So I think it's worth a listen. If you're someone who's looking to hire, if you're someone who is on the fence and not sure what to look at and what to think about, this might give you some good questions to ask yourself. All right, so I've known I wanted to hire a Pinterest manager since the beginning of the year. If you listen to episode 81, I talk about my current marketing tech stack. No, my current marketing stack, no tech in it. And I am using Threads, podcast, email, a little bit of Instagram, and my blog. And my blog is the up and coming, the one that I'm putting a lot of energy into. I've repurposed all of my podcast episodes to go out on the blog. It's just a matter of me actually putting them out. And so Pinterest was a no-brainer in the sense that I knew with all that blog content that I wanted to be getting it out there somewhere. I even asked at the beginning on Threads, should I hire for Pinterest or LinkedIn? And people were like, those are very different places in your marketing. So it's really going to depend on what you're looking for. And what I want is Google traffic to my website. So Pinterest it is. If in 6 months' time I decide I'm not liking Pinterest, I'm not seeing anything from it, I know it's a slow game, but also I've seen results in the past from Pinterest, so I kind of have expectations. But yeah, if end of the year I'm like, look, Pinterest isn't doing it for me, my blog isn't growing, my podcast isn't going anywhere, my views aren't climbing in any shape or form, then I will go back to the drawing board and consider hiring a LinkedIn manager. My only problem with the LinkedIn manager was that I didn't want to be doing anything in this hire. This hire was about giving a platform completely off my plate. And with LinkedIn, it was either that I was going to need to be creating content or following up in the DMs, or there was going to be some part of me needed in the LinkedIn process, or I was going to pay $2,000 a month, which I am not ready for. So in April, I want to say I started browsing. I'd say that I'd been browsing since the beginning of the year, looking around, checking people's profiles, checking people's packages. And like I said, I didn't want to do anything myself. I didn't want to do scheduling. I didn't want to do research. I didn't want to do graphics. I wanted nada on my plate. But I also didn't want to spend $1,000 a month. My budget was $600 to $800 a month set aside for a Pinterest manager. So honestly, at the beginning, I was completely tire kicking. I was looking at people's websites, checking their prices, and if their prices weren't in my range, they were an automatic no. I know people talk badly about tire kicking, but it is a part of hiring. You can love someone and they can be outside your budget, and that doesn't mean that you can't hire for that position. It means you need to reset your expectations and find someone who's maybe a little bit newer than that person that you love, or has a similar vibe but different pricing, right? People price based on so many different things. So it's not about hiring an American or Canadian, British versus hiring overseas. It's really a matter of it's personal, honestly. But yeah, so first things first was tire kicking, looking at the prices. The other thing that I don't love about Pinterest, and something that kept me searching for a bit because not everyone was express in this, was that a lot of Pinterest managers, and I'm sure this is taught to them, have a minimum of a 6-month commitment. And I completely understand because Pinterest is a long game. But I have been burned by service providers and by Pinterest managers in the past. So I wasn't like super jazzed about the idea of a 6-month commitment, because that would be, if I was paying $600 a month, that would be that'd be $3,600 to someone who could potentially take my money and do nothing. And I'm not someone who likes to like fuck around with contracts and be like, I'm just not going to pay you, and like I don't want to cause problems, and I don't want to be out of integrity. But I also just couldn't really get my nervous system behind committing to 6 months with the experiences that I've had. I know we can't say all service providers. And I'm not saying all service providers, because I hired this position again despite being burned in the past, but I have had a Pinterest manager before that it's like I was paying them and I would go in my account and nothing had been done. And I would message them and be like, hey, like, there's no pins scheduled, there's no pins posted, like, what's going on? And then they'd go in and like kind of dump a bunch of pins, but it's like there was no keyword research, there was no descriptions, there was no effort, And so it's like, and if you've seen my thread, I talked about a hire that I had go wrong, that I had to fire someone at the end of 2022. And a big insecurity of mine is I don't like to handhold. But because I don't handhold, people can take advantage of me. And so it's, again, like a big thing. I want to hire in integrity, because I want to hire people that aren't going to fuck me over, because I'm not looking over their shoulder every single day. If I check in once a month, I don't want to have it be that I do my monthly check-in and see that like, okay, you've done nothing for the last month. Where did my $600, $800 go? Anyways, so that was the other part of my hiring. It was in my budget, and I didn't want a 6-month contract. I wanted, or at least someone who was flexible and had like a cancellation policy. Like if I was like, I'm out, this isn't working, or I don't have the budget anymore, something came up, they would be human enough to understand. So a lot of people were immediately cut out. A lot of Pinterest managers, and I'm not saying this is wrong, but a lot of Pinterest managers had one package at $1,000 a month. I literally have one package at $1,000 a month, so I'm not like shitting on that. But I also have a note underneath my package that says, know exactly what you want, send me a DM and I'll send you a custom quote. All the people that I canceled off didn't have that. Another thing with Pinterest managers is they tend to have tiered packages. So when people only had one package, it just kind of didn't interest me, right? Because there is different levels to how much content you put out on Pinterest. Some people's packages included ads. Some people's packages literally like doubled the content they put out. Sometimes they would go deeper in it. Like, I don't necessarily care about getting a monthly report and even getting like content suggestions, because like content's my thing. I know what I can think up my own content ideas. But to like some people's packages, package number one, like $600, wouldn't include actually pinning or scheduling the pins, the content to go out. And so it's like, again, an automatic no, I don't want to be doing anything. But I also want to know that there's more than like 10 pins going out a month, because Pinterest is at some point a volume game, and I do have a lot of fucking content. So after all of that criteria, I found 3 people that I liked and were in my price range, that had good vibes, that I wanted to get on calls with and talk with. One of them never responded to my application. The other 2, application form, link to book a call on my calendar pretty seamlessly. One of them was automated, one of them was through email communication. The third person responded a week later, after I sent them a message on IG saying like, hey, you never answered my application. And then she proceeded to send like 5 messages in the period of 72 hours. I think 2 were on Instagram and 3 to my email, and it just left a bad taste in my mouth because I was on vacation and like I didn't have a autoresponder on my email, but my Instagram stories, which she was watching, all said, I'm on vacation, I'm out of office, like it's so good to take vacation, make sure you take vacation, blah blah blah. And so the barrage of messages kind of annoyed me, and also the fact that it took a week and me following up, it was an automatic no for me. I know things can happen, things can fall through the cracks, but that was a no for me. Like, if you're not going to respond to people who are looking to pay you, how do you respond to people who are already paying you? Again, my hangups about Pinterest managers. But so I had 2 people I got on a call with. I'm going to call them client A, or not client A. I'm going to call them pinner A and pinner B. I think I got on the call with them like one day after the other, or maybe even within the same day. I organized it to be that. But pinner A is the one I didn't hire. Pinner B is the one I did hire. And like I said at the beginning, you're going to see why based on these notes that I share. So A had a good portfolio. Pinner A wasn't new to Pinterest, but I wasn't necessarily her ideal client. And that was something else when I was looking at people, like when I was looking at service providers and Pinterest managers specifically, was a lot of them will focus on health and wellness or DIY or mom bloggers. And they say that specifically in their content, in their bios. And so I was like, okay, if like that's your ideal client, it's not me, I'm not going to apply to work with you. I'm not your niche. And I'm not saying that everyone should have open niches. It's totally great that you have a set niche. I get it, especially with Pinterest, if you're doing keyword research and all of that, and you know the seasons and you know the content that works best. But obviously I was looking for someone who knew my industry, service providers, someone who does done for you services and was looking for clients through Pinterest, looking for website traffic through Pinterest. So already the call started off that she wasn't exactly oozing confidence, which isn't an automatic no. I'm not saying you need to get on the call and be like the cockiest person alive and think you're the hottest shit. But also like a little bit of confidence goes a long way. And so she wasn't oozing confidence. She didn't give me the confidence in her right away. The first question I asked her was about her experience, if she had worked with anyone like me. And she had worked with a business coach, to which she, didn't speak highly of this past client. That's okay. We don't have to love all our clients. But she basically said the business coach didn't see the value in Pinterest, cut her contract early, so she never saw any results. And based on the business owner niche, you can't expect to see hundreds of thousands of views from Pinterest. So that was kind of like a strike too. First, she wasn't confident, and second, she's telling me that someone who is the closest client she had to me quit their contract early, saw no results, and had unrealistic expectations. It was so much like on the client and nothing on her. I'm not saying like I don't know how that relationship had ended, but I didn't like it from my side, where I am technically that client she's talking about, right? And so I understand Pinterest long game. Said it 10 times in this episode already. But I also took a Pinterest course in 2020. I used to offer Pinterest management through my agency when we were a content agency. I am not new to Pinterest. I just don't want to do it. I don't want to do the research. I don't want to do the content creation. I don't want to do the scheduling. There's a lot of steps to Pinterest, even if it's not super complicated. I personally do not want to do it. But I also know, and I have seen, people get hundreds of thousands of views on their Pinterest. I personally have had 200 to 300,000 impressions on my Pinterest when I was at my most active. So a Pinterest manager who's looking to work with me to tell me that I can't expect numbers that I've personally already seen, it was kind of strike 3. Then after the call, she didn't send a proposal. She didn't send a follow-up. She didn't send me next steps. She didn't send me anything. She didn't send me a message on Instagram. She didn't send me an email. So then I was kind of sitting there like, do I even need to message her to say, hey, I'm going with Pinner B? Because like it almost read to me as she knew she wasn't getting hired, and again, no confidence. Anyways, so Pinner B, I should have started with Pinner B because I don't know. Either way I spin this, you're going to know exactly who I hired, so it's not a secret. Pinner B is an agency. So when I got on the call, it was the agency owner and the person who would be doing my Pinterest. So like my pin manager. I didn't know that beforehand. It's not a deal breaker. It's what it is. I don't know. I'm always like shocked when people come to calls with other people. I like to know. I don't like surprises, but it's also not a deal breaker because I also know the more higher up people that I speak with, the more likely it is that they have someone on the call with them. Anyways, so both of them were super personal, super cool people. They had clearly done their research on me. They had a list of questions for me, like straight off the top of the call. They then walked me through their processes, the behind the scenes, their thinking, like for the fact that they don't use Tailwind, where like every other Pinterest manager requires you to pay for Tailwind and get Tailwind. They also talked about their client portal and how they share their pin schedule within a calendar, all set up in Notion. I love Notion. I just don't have the patience to set it up or the fucks to give about my aesthetics. So if I ever come into a windfall, maybe I'll get someone to set up my whole agency portal and client portals in Notion. But as of right now, I love it when people bring me into Notion, but I do not use it. Anyways, so B was super comprehensive in their, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is what we're about, this is what it'll look like working with us, which is what I think a sales call should be about. I only ever host sales calls now because I don't hire often. I have my solid team. I'm happy with it, right? So it was very interesting to do these two calls back to back and see the night and day difference in the setup and how it made me feel as the buyer, the confidence that was instilled in me in Pinner B's call versus Pinner A's call. On both calls, they both asked me questions about my brand. They both obviously researched me. The first one had actually been someone in my audience for a while, so I wasn't really new to her. Pinner B is actually someone that I found by searching Pinterest manager on Instagram through the keywords. So if you don't believe in the Instagram algorithm, believe it now, because that is how I made my hire. I did not follow her. I don't think I knew anyone who was following her. And now we're all over each other's threads and like BFFs, both the owner and my Pinterest manager. Anyways, both of them came with questions. Both of them knew my brand. Both of them asked me about my plans for content I would be putting out and how I plan to stay consistent with putting out new content, because that's a Pinterest thing. And both of them mentioned having ideas for more content they could create for me or how I could repurpose my content more. Pinner B sent me a proposal immediately after the call that was super beautiful. Everything Pinner B has sent me has been super beautiful and branded. And she also sent a follow-up a week later because I think we had the call mid-May and I wanted to hire for June 1st, which she knew. And so, like a week before June 1st, she messaged being like, hey, I know we talked. I just wanted to check if you were still on board because there are some things we need to set up before the 1st of June. And I got that email and I filled it out immediately after and sent my first payment. So that, I feel like you can get a sense of so many different things in this call. First is customization is not evil when you're a service provider. It really bothers me, and it took me a really long time to come to terms with that because so many big coaches will tell you like not to customize, don't customize, it complicates your business. Customization does not complicate your business, but also making sure there's like a lowered barrier to entry for the people coming to you. Pinterest managers, like, I wasn't looking at famous Pinterest managers. I was looking at Pinterest coaches and their clients. So a lot of these people were newer, didn't have full portfolios, didn't have these like huge businesses, and yet their only way to work with people was a like $200 Pinterest audit or $1,000 monthly package. I think those tiered packages go a long way, not just for Pinterest, but for all businesses. You can have the smallest amount of deliverables, knowing that someone is going to join that and then upgrade to the bigger package later. I feel that way about my business, though with mine, with repurposing unlimited, it's kind of the package for people who want repurposing for all platforms, don't have specifics, but just want to be getting content out en masse. And then when people are like, I only want B-roll or I only need emails and blogs, then I can customize it to them to specifically fit their budget and our availability as well. So that was a big thing. Also, the amount of service guides I signed up to that didn't arrive, the fact that I filled out an application and never heard from the person, the fact I got off a call and never received a proposal or even an email saying like, it was lovely to chat with you. Let me know what you're thinking. Let me know if you have any other questions. Like, it shows how little thought, I want to say, service providers are putting into client experience. You don't need to have instant responses or beautifully branded deliverables, proposals, all of that. My proposal is basic as fuck. There's a Canva banner and then words. But I send that proposal within 24 hours. Preferably within like 2 to 3 hours is when I send the proposal, but I have like sometimes I'll take a call really late at night, so then I'll wait till the next morning to send it, because also I know my clients, they're 6 hours behind me, so a lot of the times it doesn't create a big difference. But like, I think within those first 24 hours after a call, there needs to be some kind of follow-up, especially if it was a sales call. I think if someone's applying to work with you, 24 to 48 hours response, either saying sorry, no, here's why, or yes, let's get on a call, or here's the next steps. 48 hours maximum. Someone is asking to pay you money, don't make them wait, because they'll find someone else. And same like the general inquiries, like people, this isn't just the Pinterest managers. I do Instagram engagement, right, for an agency. And so it's like, when people are inquiring about your services, I think it's so important to respond in a timely manner. Again, like 24 hours. If they're in your DMs, if they're in your email inbox, because like these are people asking to pay you. And if all you have to do is answer one question for them to say, yeah, here's my credit card, like take the time to prioritize it. Anyways, that's a little bit of me, my Pinterest management hiring journey. I now am working with House of Ivy. She used to be Resting Pin Face. I loved that handle. But now they're House of Ivy, owned by Cassie. Super great people. You'll see me tag them all over threads. They're hilarious. They're so much fun. And I am loving the content they're putting out on my Pinterest so far. So I'm sure you'll get an end of year update on how my Pinterest numbers are looking. But as of right now, it's 1 month in and things are groovy. But that's all I'm going to say this week. I will catch you all when I catch you next. Please come find me on Instagram, on threads at Felly Day, or you can check out my website, fellyday.com. We have so many great resources for you, including this podcast and all the episodes. If you have enjoyed it, I implore you to leave a rating and review, because I believe it helps my show grow. I could not honestly tell you if it makes a difference, but I like to believe that it makes a difference, and it makes me feel good about myself to see your reviews come through. But I will catch you all when I catch you on another episode of The Unprofessional Entrepreneur, and as always, don't forget to stay unprofessional.